Good morning. I scheduled this time with Abigail so that I can do a Facebook Live on her group about doing podcasts. I published my book a year and a half ago, and I started doing podcasts at the beginning of last year. And since then, I did 50 podcasts last year, and I've already done 6 so far this year. And half a dozen of them have come from Abigail and this group. I have a message that I am very passionate to share, which is why I am so actively out there doing podcasts. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. 6 years ago, I woke up one morning and everything in my body hurt. Every muscle, every joint. I had my own business for 20 years. I designed jewelry for majors and manufactured in Asia and had a very developed staff. And I made an appointment, went to the doctor, she ran tests, and then I made another appointment and she ran more tests. And after 4 visits, she finally called me and said, "Sheryl, there's nothing wrong with you." I said, "Well, obviously there's something wrong with me. I hurt." So she said, "Look, I'll give you steroids, and I really think you need to go get some therapy." So I turned my business over to my staff and I started researching, because the last thing I wanted was a life of pain and pills. What I tripped across was the functional medicine community, who at the time was doing all kinds of symposiums with all the functional doctors, most of whom had become functional because they had gotten sick and couldn't help themselves. And so there was a symposium on Alzheimer's, and there was a symposium on thyroid disease, and there was a symposium about gut issues, and there was a symposium on the adrenals and how they impact your body. And I watched all of them. In the end, I watched 20 different symposiums, and they kept coming down to the same thing, that I probably had autoimmune disease. It was probably caused by something called leaky gut. So that's where I dug in and started researching. I discovered there were some things I could do for myself right away. I could start to eliminate toxins, and I could significantly lower my stress. Now, I thought it was a good idea to have stress because I got a lot done if I was in a constant state of stress, but it ends up being chased by a tiger 24/7 is not good. And my adrenal glands were almost completely deficient in cortisol because I had depleted it. And so I was struggling with brain fog and with adrenal fatigue. So I started to dig. I learned some great stress exercises that I started doing on a daily basis, and then I dug into toxins. And there is a database called EWG.org, which is the Environmental Working Group. And as I started looking up things in my life, I was appalled, because almost everything in my life was severely toxic. So I started slowly, systematically, replacing all the toxins until I replaced hundreds of them in my life with items that are very low in toxins. And as I was doing that, I started to feel better, and some of my pain started to go away. And then I dug in and tried to find my own functional doctor. Most of them don't take insurance. I did find one that takes insurance. I drive an hour to see her. And when I walked in to see her, her first thing was, "Sheryl, you're sitting on a tack. Let's go find that tack." A functional doctor looks at the entire body and wants to help heal you. And so she ran totally different tests than my conventional doctor, and we put together a strategy where we detox metals out of my body. We detox mold out of my body. I am loaded with herbicides and pesticides. I am still working on getting those out of my body. But by working with the functional doctor and having eliminated so many of the toxins that were impacting my life, I lost the pain. So I do have autoimmune disease. I still get flares. I will always have autoimmune disease, but I don't have the pain anymore. I decided then at 67 to go back to school and become a health coach, because I wanted to help other people with what I'd learned. And when I graduated as a health coach, I wrote a book to help others. It feels good to feel good. Learn to eliminate toxins, reduce your inflammation, and feel great again. And so this has been my jumping off point for doing podcasts. I am very passionate to spread what I've learned. There's a couple of reasons I'm doing this now. I just turned 70. I feel better than I did in my 50s. And We're 37th in the world in health. You want to know what's wrong with our healthcare system? It's because we have so many toxins in our life. But the statistic that really got me is that 53% of our children has some kind of chronic illness. So I've been doing podcasts because I want to raise awareness. You can lower your toxic load dramatically, and it's your toxic load that when it goes over the top leads to disease. Now, when I wrote the book, I thought it was only autoimmune disease. Ends up, most of our chronic illnesses come from toxins and come from inflammation. So my message really is for everyone. And a lot of people say to me, guess what? I feel great. I don't need that. I don't have to do that. Well, what you don't know is it can take as long as 20 years for your toxic load to build up before it topples over the top like it did for me that morning when I woke up and I hurt. So it's important that you pay attention to the message. Now, I am somebody who has learned not everybody wants to do it just because I share the information, and that's okay. My job is to get the information out there, and then whoever is listening to it, it's their job to decide what they want to do with it. So I have done 50 podcasts last year. I've already done 6. I have done any podcast, no matter how small, because I figure if I reach just one person, then I've done my job. But I'm excited because at the end of last year, I did Donnie Boven's Success Champions podcast, which was, he's an influencer, and I'm now part of his Facebook group. And I'm doing Sean Douglas's podcast this year, and he's an influencer. So I can talk about any chapter of my book at any time with anybody because I've done so many, and so that's what I recommend that you do. Now, what does my book cover? It covers toxins in food, the importance of eating organic, what GMOs really are, and then toxins in the rest of our food. It talks about toxins in cosmetics, toxins in over-the-counter drugs, toxins in our kitchen, what we cook on, what we store our food in, toxins that come out of our water tap, and why you don't want to be drinking your water out of plastic water bottles. The most toxic thing in your house are those little pods you wash your clothes in or that you wash your dishes in. And then I also go into toxins of the mind, which is how to reduce stress, how to reduce anxiety. I was in a toxic relationship when I got sick, so I talk about that and what to do about it. It really was an angel's hand on my back because it led me out of that relationship and into a relationship with a fantastic man that I married 3 years ago that's very supportive in all areas of my life. And then I talk about toxic lack of movement. So my book allows me to go in all different directions for all different podcasts. So essentially, that's what I wanted to share with you. I have also run free classes on the Wellness Universe. I just did a paid class, which was a 6-part Why Food Quality Matters class. And I am currently doing a 4-week sugar detox, all through the Learn It Live Center at the Wellness Universe. You might want to consider, if you're doing something that will change people's lives, joining the Wellness Universe. I also publish articles with them. So depending upon why you want a podcast, get your message out there and find ways to do it. So that's my whole message this morning. I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend and a great 2019. Thank you so much.